Good morning, March the 14th, 2017. This is CISG113, Section 1, Information Security and Privacy. Today is day number 15 into week number 8. Well, week number 8, and that is the beginning for learning contract number 3 with a theme called problem-based learning. So let's get started. First of all, welcome back to this class. This is day number 15 into week number 8. Now, before we get into week number 8, I would like to bring you back to the submissions for learning contract number 2. I appreciate that most of you are actually almost all of you submitting work, except for one important point that I've noticed. When I noticed that, take a look at the submissions for the proposal and also for other things. We have 26 students, but we just have 14 submitted. That means 12 students did not submit it. Now, because most of the work here are done on a pair, but please do not misunderstood that. If you do it in pair, you do not need to submit on your own. Even though we did it in pair, it's the same artifact that you and your pair partner are going to submit, but each member of the pair has to submit the work on his or her own. So if you happen not to remember that, you are allowed to submit your work here, the same artifact your pair member has submitted, okay? Otherwise, you would not have your score recorded, okay? Remind your pair partner that he or she is allowed to submit those artifacts, the 4 artifacts for learning contract number 2, if he or she has forgotten to submit the same artifact on his or her own, okay? If I got 14, that means almost all of you have already done the work, because you're going to submit within your pair the same artifact, except for the fact that each of the 2 members in your pair must have done the submission on his or her own, okay? So remember that. You are allowed to submit those artifacts even though the deadline is passed. I accept them, okay? So make sure you remind your pair partner to submit the artifacts that should have been submitted before the past Sunday, okay? So if you look at the second artifacts, the pair online journals, you can see that again I got 13. That means basically all the class have done it, but if you misunderstood that, you do not need to submit it. You have to submit it, all right? I'm going to do the grading of this second learning contract by this weekend, so you have plenty of time to resubmit your missing artifact. Okay, now this is the pair discussion forum. As you can see that I got 9 only. You should have submit this, okay? In your pair discussion forum, just copy and paste the work over there. And then lastly, it's the refractive block, okay? Again, you see that I got 12, that means almost all have already done the work but not submitted. Okay, now if you check your grade for your first learning contract by going to the student assessment, you should be able to see your grade for the first learning contract. I finished grading it by last weekend. So anyone to click on this particular number, you can see that I've already sent you the grade, all right? So you can just check it. So now let's begin what we are supposed to begin today in week number 8. Now I see that many of you have signed up for day number 16 of this week to do your presentations on the second learning contract. That's wonderful, and so this will give us a good amount of time today to visit the topics of interest, okay? So give me some time to give you a good introductions of what you're supposed to do in the last learning contract, which also lasts for 3 weeks, week number 8, week number 9, and week number 10. Well, the theme of the last learning contract is called problem-based learning, the PBL. Now, problem-based learning is the kind of methods of helping yourself to learn with the friends around you, with a group of friends, okay? So it's basically a team learning approach. Everybody learns something, and everybody got something from your teammates. So, and it starts out with an interesting problem. Normally the teacher will deliver the problem to you, but in this class it's said, no, you're going to generate a problem yourself. And what exactly is the problem you need to generate? Well, in this class, the step is very logical, all right? So, within the week number 8, within the week number 9, and within the week number 10, you see that we do have some topics listed out for you. For example, in this week is topic 4, topic 5, next week is topic 5, topic 6, and the last week is topic 6, topic 7. And topic 4 is about information fraud. You can see that starting from last week, I start introducing to you different stories along the line of information fraud. Okay, still remember the stories about a housewife looking for a part-time job, why she had some free time at home. And unfortunately, she fell into the trap of the scammer. She was used, okay, to shift money around, to use the money that comes from nowhere, not identified, to buy something, and all of a sudden, she discovered that she was in debt, owing her bank a lot of money because of the overdraft. Is a trap, okay? So I think in your team, what you need to do, it's just like in the first learning contract, you need to select a topic, write your journal based on the topic, on the free reading list, number 8, number 9, number 10, and then you have a pair. In your second learning contract, which is just finished, you work with your learning partner and then come up with a pair topic. Now, in the very final learning contract, as you understood from me weeks ago, you are going to work in team. In this team, you have 2 pairs. So you have 2 pair problems. And then you, from the 2 pair problem, you unify them into a team problem. Now, the idea is very systematic because each one contributes a problem, each pair contributes a problem, and the team select one single problem from the 4 members of your team. And from that problem, you try to come up with the findings in the form of observations, in the form of interpretations, and in the form of applications. And then this time, okay, you do not need to write a journal. It means you do not need to submit a journal. It does not mean you do not need to write a journal. What you need to do for the whole team is to write a team report, okay? A whole team report and a whole team presentation, PowerPoint, okay? So with 3 weeks time down the road, you're going to do a lot of discussions in class, and the ultimate goal in the last learning contract is that the whole team with the 4 persons there is going to come up with a report. And from that report, you also need to prepare PowerPoint for the team presentations. Now, how are you going to come up with a report? Remember, Tiger and Shadow asked me, do you have guidelines for the report last week? I said, sure, but not for the second learning contract, but for the third learning contract. You will see the guideline coming up very soon, which is very systematic and also brings forward what you did in the first learning contract, in the second learning contract, along the line of your journaling. That is note-taking. Remember, when we invite you to write a journal in the first learning contract and the second learning contract, we emphasize that you do not need to write a prose-style journal. Basically, your journal is a collection of facts, collections of questions, and collections of perceived learning lessons. And so you can put it in point forms, but you are obliged to cite the sources. Okay, that's why we introduced to you by the end of week 4, this is week number 8, 4 weeks ago, you pick up the skill of information literacy. You learn the method of discovery. And then now you have to come back to reuse them, okay, in writing your report by creating your list of references with your team of 4 persons. You need to take a good look at the references and use some of them to create the raw materials for your report. And the raw materials are exactly the journal one. you got the observations, you got the questions, interpretation, and you got the lessons learned. And then the whole report is composed of different sequence of observations, interpretations, and applications structured into 3 sub-questions. 3 sub-questions looks familiar, right? In your proposal, individual, you have to come up with 3 sub-questions to explore your topic. In your peer proposal that you just finished, you also have to come up with 3 sub-questions for your topic. So finally, in this third learning contract, the whole team need to come up with 1 topic, need to come up with 3 sub-questions for the topic, and each team member need to work on 1 of the 3 questions. And for each of the 3 questions, you need to come up with a set of observations, interpretations, and applications. And that's what the report is all about. So it's basically from an individual work in the first learning contract to peer work in the second learning contract, and finally in teamwork in the third learning contract. So that is problem-based learning. So allow me to introduce to you to some very interesting specifics on problem-based learning. So let's move on to this interesting page. Okay?
Hi everyone, welcome to my instructional strategy video. Today I will be talking about the problem-based learning strategy. Now this is a strategy which is based on education theories of John Dewey and Lev Vygotsky. Now decades of work has been done with the problem-based learning strategy. Its usefulness has found its way into many different environments, the educational environment, but also corporate environment as well. Now, essentially, this is a student-centered instructional strategy where students work in groups collaboratively to solve problems. Learning for the students is driven by addressing challenging problems, open-ended problems, and very often ill-structured problems.
Welcome back. Good morning.
This is an example of problem-based learning. There's different roles that are played throughout the group. One very important role is a facilitator who ensures that all of the students and participants' expertise and life experience is brought to the table, their thoughts, their opinions. We have a secretary or someone who records all of the thoughts and opinions and generated ideas from the group. It's very important for the recorder to seek clarification if they need clarification. It's very, very important for the rest of the group as a whole, to respect each other around the table as well as the process of group learning. As an instructor, it's very, very important to me not to guide or direct the students' thoughts and ideas being generated. I may act as the facilitator as long as I do not participate in the discussion. The other alternative to that is that I may oversee the group and ensure that the facilitator is able to bring out everybody's thoughts and ideas and expertise to the problem. It's extremely beneficial to have a very diverse group of people, men and women, different age groups, different ethnic backgrounds, in order to have a very broad perspective of the problem and the solution. The problem-based learning instructional strategy is an active process of using prior knowledge and experience, making connections between old and new concepts, and engaging people together in critical thinking, creative thinking, together working towards theory construction. When there is a problem with many variables and a great deal of information to assimilate, you need a team of individuals who will work together and engage in the problem-solving work. This is a very effective strategy where you have natural teams, such as in medical schools or in hospitals for medical diagnosis case management work in the human services field, as well as corporate strategic planning. So here are the steps in conducting a problem-based learning strategy.
The first step is to arrange students in group. You're now in groups, okay? The second step is who is going to be the facilitator in your group. Normally, you have 4 students now, and who's going to lead the discussions to discover what to do. Step number 3, I as your facilitator will review with your groups about some of the things you have been doing, about who's going to talk what and do what. And then you have to discuss about your work. Normally it's done in class with a minimum of interference to your normal sequence of learning habits. You need to learn how to brainstorm, to look up information in class with your device, and you need to create an action plan. Action plan to result in your report and also your PowerPoint that are required towards the end of this milestone. And of course, you need to come together with your knowledge, a little bit of the preparations, so that everyone will have some contributions. Since we have 3 weeks time to do this problem-based learning sequence, of course you need to write a report, but when you're in class, you need to learn how to put things together.
Problem-based instructional strategy is an effective means of engaging students, employees, and colleagues alike. I have discussed some of the benefits of problem-based learning, but there are also some limitations. One limitation is, which actually is supported by a series of studies, is in the instruction of math, specifically algebra. Learners found it very difficult to process a large amount of information without the fundamental knowledge taught with individual practice problems. Another limitation may be that students have to be willing to work within a group, and for traditional learners, this might be quite frustrating at the start. Another limitation could quite
Good morning,
possibly
Clea.
be time. It takes time for this process to occur, for students to engage fully, to research, to come back to the table, and instructors must be prepared to invest this time. Well, this is the end of the video, and I hope you found the information interesting and positive about making the problem-based learning strategy a part of your repertoire.
Okay, so we're going to get into problem-based learning in this week, okay, and in a subsequent 2 weeks. What we're going to do is in class, we're going to get you involved in some of the work that is expected of you, including a little bit of the framework of what this instructor talks about. So, first of all, you know that you're already in teams and you're sitting in tables. Players, you need to find your table, okay? Yes, move together, all right? And the second thing you need to do is, I've just given you the information of what we're going to do in the last learning contract. We have 3 weeks time. We want to spend the class time working together to help each one of you get a good taste about working together, okay? Working together involve you having discussions, okay? Discussions of what? Well, in this class, we call information security and privacy. My role as your facilitator is to provide you stimulus that are good enough for you to start out your conversations. And when you are willing to start out your conversations in class, in your table, that is very useful to what you can accomplish towards the end of this milestone. As I said, all you need to do by the end of this last milestone, based on your experience before, is to produce one report, a team report, everybody submit the same report, and to produce a team reported PowerPoint, okay? And after that, you submit these 2 artifacts, and then we will arrange time for you, the whole team, to do the presentations. Let's talk about what are you going to put into your report? What is your topic? Basically, it's up to your team to design. But the framework is, you have these 3 weeks topics as the basis. We study week number 8, next week is week number 9, and last week is week number 10. If you look at the course outline, we have very good topics available for the 3 weeks. Now that allows me to go up, okay, up to day number 1, and then let me show you the topics we have prepared for you. If you go to course review in day number 1, you can see at a glance what are the topics we have prepared for you over the first 10 weeks. Okay, actually we have 14 weeks. We've gone through week number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, which is what we call the learning contract number 1. If you look at the topics here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions. Okay, now you did it already. You select your personalized questions from this topic, only 1 out of the 9. This is learning contract number 1. And then for learning contract number 2, it starts with week number 5, number 6, and number 7. You have a bunch of those individual questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you have 8 questions to select 1 because some of these are overlapping between the 2 weeks. And that becomes to your peer topic you just submitted last weekend. And so when we start week number 8 today, this is considered as part of the learning contract number 3. We have the first 2 questions, and week number 9 we have another 2 questions, and finally week number 10 we have another 2 questions. So we have actually 6 questions for your team to select 1. And again, you understand that once you select 1 question, you're free to offer your personalized questions for the whole team. So in order to facilitate your group learning together, and in this particular milestone we call it problem-based learning, you need to have a very good discussions on what topic to choose. And most importantly, if you have not reported to me your team formations, you need to do it by the end of this weekend, or actually by the end of today. Because if you have not done this, I will not know which team belongs to you, okay? So if you go back to week number 6, you can see that we have a team partner registration forum here. Let's take a look at the registrations now. So we got Carol, we have you have just 2 members. Are you going to find another 2 members today?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then make sure you give me an update, all right? So because we need to know which team you belong. And then we have Maggie. Maggie is the team which is well formed with 4 members already. Wonderful. And then Dion, you need to make sure you got 4 members here. Give me updates on the 4 members. All right? You need to make sure you give me 4 members. I just got 2 here. All right? So I think we're going to have normally we have 25 students now. Let's see, let me double check. I guess we still have 25 students here. So if you need to reshuffle your team, you are ready. Yes, 25 students so far. So 25 students, about 12 pairs. 12 pair means 6 teams. We got to have about 6 teams, right? So for those of you whose team has not been formed, make sure you will give me the team information definitely before the end of this week. All right? I've been waiting for this for more than 2 weeks. All right? Ever since the beginning of second learning contract. So you have to understand that teamwork is very good because same piece of work at the very beginning you do it alone. Same piece of work in the second stage you did it with 2 persons. Now the same piece of work you did it with 4 persons. So you have to learn how to do less but with more results. Okay? Less is for more. Indeed, teamwork is very attractive in this case. All right, but of course you need to manage a lot of things. So let's get back to week number 8. Now, I've just explained to you the nature of problem-based learning, what you need to do by the end of this learning contract. All you need to submit individual member-wise, it's your team report and team PowerPoint. 2 things only, all right? But it does not mean you don't need to do your journal, but the journal you do not need to submit, all right? It does not mean you do not need to do the forum discussions, but these details you do not need to submit, all right? We just focus on your team report and your team PowerPoint, all right? So the team PowerPoint, again, not more than 15 slides, okay? In your personal presentation, 5 slides. In your pair presentations, 10 slides. But in your team presentations, your PowerPoint contains not more than 15 slides, okay? And you have at most 15 minutes to present your work towards the end of the first learning contract about your teamwork. 15 minutes is a long time. Well, and then the team report is a report on one single topic, which is very much agreed by all the members in your team. And you can select a topic based on week number 8, week number 9, and week number 10's topics, okay? And it's basically an enhanced versions of your blog based on the structure of your journal. You need to provide the topics of your team report. You need to provide 3 specific questions you want to explore the topic with, and you need to provide 3 important references to explore the topic with. And then you need to provide for each question the set of observations, interpretations, and applications. And after that, you need to provide a group-based summary of what you did. Okay? That's pretty much what is required. A group-based summary is very much equivalent to what you learned. Of the individual questions, you have 3 for the big topic. And all the answers of the 4 members are counted, and you need to list the name of 1 person who responds for writing what, the 2 persons who are responsible for writing what, and the whole team who are responsible for writing what. Now this is a kind of collaborations that is expected from each team, and it's also based on the model of cooperations. Each member is responsible for doing a small part of the work. Well, I must tell you that this is the kind of learning style that you need to be equipped with when you are promoted to your 2nd years of study. You're now year 1, and then when you get to year 2, most of the courses will offer you somewhat packaged like this in the form of what we call a project. Okay? So, learning contract number 3 is what we call project line work. It's basically team-based. Each person is responsible for some kind of contributions, and each pair need to work with small part, and the whole team needs to integrate them together. Okay, having said this, let's come back to the topic of day 15. Well, I think I need to show you another very interesting episode of topic number 4. It's called information fraud. Okay, what is information fraud? A fraud is something that is not real. It is created in order to fish for interest from others. But when the hackers got the interest, it will be at your loss. Okay? So today, let us pay attention to another 60-minute story so that you will get a much more better understanding of what the fraud is. I've also given you the Nigerian scam as dramatizations to crystallize your ideas about possible threats, possible traps, and possible scams that it's phishing for victims online. Okay, let's go for the first piece.
Tonight, on this special edition of 60 Minutes Presents 21st Century Con. Our hidden cameras captured one of the most outrageous cons we have ever recorded.
You can't find a surgeon in the world who doesn't support our approach.
He's a 21st century snake oil salesman bilking desperate patients out of their life savings.
We've got people out of wheelchairs.
I'm Scott Pelley. I'm with 60 Minutes. His bogus treatment costs $125,000 cash and promises the impossible. I understand that you have had patients that have stood up and walked away from wheelchairs.
There have been patients that have improved to that extent.
You know, Mr. Stowe, the trouble is that you're a con man.
Do you read the story
This is what
strip?
espionage looks like. The man driving the car is Greg Bergerson. He's a civilian analyst at the Pentagon with one of the nation's highest security clearances. His companion is Tai Shin Kuo, a spy for the People's Republic of China. Bergerson knew a secret that the Chinese desperately wanted to know, and neither man knows that what they're about to do is being recorded by two cameras the FBI has concealed in their car.
You sure that that's okay? Yeah, come on.
Good evening. I'm Scott Pelley. Welcome to 60 Minutes Presents. We've tracked a lot of con men over the years, and tonight you will see some of the most brazen we have ever met. Con men used to travel town to town hawking medical remedies said to be made of Chinese snakes. Snake oil was useless and dangerous, so the FDA was created to put a stop to it and to other food and drug scams. But today, quack medicine has never been bigger. In the 21st century, snake oil has been replaced by bogus therapies using stem cells. Stem cells may offer cures one day, but medical charlatans on the internet are making outrageous claims that they can reverse the incurable, from autism to multiple sclerosis to every kind of cancer. Desperate people are being bilked out of their life savings. As we first reported last April, there is no better window on this crime than the practice of a man who calls himself doctor, a man named Lawrence Stowe. Stowe was unaware that some of his patients had been working with 60 Minutes. One of those patients is Stephen Waters, a college administrator in Lufkin, Texas, who 6 months before we met him received maybe the worst diagnosis imaginable. He has ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. About 30,000 Americans have ALS at any given time, and like Waters, they all will die, most within 5 years, as their nervous system gradually disconnects from their muscles.
Everything just takes a little longer. I just set things up to where it requires minimal manual effort. Just handling personal hygiene is difficult. Teeth brushing, flossing, very difficult, time consuming. So you just make the adaptations that you can. Go on.
Eventually, Waters will be able to move nothing but his eyes. The same fate is ahead of Michael Martin, who also has ALS. Martin has nearly lost any ability to speak, and very soon, he won't be able to walk. I wonder what it was that your regular doctor back home told you about your disease and what your prospects were. You had about 2 years to live. No patient has ever been cured of ALS. No patient has ever seen the symptoms reversed, even temporarily. But still, desperate people find themselves drawn to a place that promotes the impossible. Stowe Biotherapy in La Mesa, California, near San Diego, which bills itself as a medical oasis. We asked a multiple sclerosis patient to go in with a hidden camera to hear Larry Stowe's pitch for his miracle treatment. That's Stowe telling our MS patient that he can reverse her disease with his program of herbs and vitamins to boost the immune system, custom vaccines, and stem cell injections. Medical experts say it's nonsense, but it is the same pitch that we secretly recorded again and again as Stowe claimed to reverse cancer, ALS, MS, Parkinson's disease, and more.
We're the only ones who've been able to get anybody that's down here back up to here, and they stay back up to here. we were a major pharmaceutical drug company, you know, we'd be talking about all of our research associating getting Nobel Prizes in medicine and things of that nature.
Larry Stowe is not a medical doctor. He claims 2 PhDs, but we found he only has 1 in chemical engineering. He had a career at Mobil Oil and holds patents in the oil industry. But by the 1980s, Stowe had taken a strange turn into pseudoscience. For a time, he promoted something called Eon water, which he said slowed the aging process. And by 2003, he had created the Stowe Foundation to advocate unproven stem cell therapies. Michael Martin, one of the ALS patients helping with our story, had heard about Stowe from a friend. And before we ever met Martin, he'd already given Stowe a down payment of $47,000 to start the treatment. When Dr. Stowe said that he could reverse this disease with stem cells, you thought what? You wanted to believe. How does Larry Stowe make believers of the desperate? We wanted to see.
Hey, Waters, nice to meet you. Larry Stowe.
Nice to meet you.
So we set up hidden cameras in Michael Martin's home in Houston and invited ALS sufferer Stephen Waters to pose as an interested patient. Stowe came in on crutches. He's missing a leg, which he says he lost to cancer. Everyone in the room knew about our hidden cameras except Stowe. Stowe had claimed what he called a permanent fix for ALS. So we gave Waters questions to ask about Stowe's therapy.
So it's a permanent fix from the stem cells?
Oh, yes, yeah. You'll be able to
Exercise again?
exercise again. Oh, yeah.
Well, if I opt for the permanent fix, will I avoid a feeding tube? Will it keep me out of the wheelchair?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got people out of wheelchairs.
Am I gonna get closer and closer to some point you can say, okay, you're cured, you're healed from this disease?
I believe that that is 100% possible. Because we've done it with other conditions. I mean, we've done it with cancer. You know, which is just a different form of tissue destruction. My mother had pancreatic cancer. And we completely reversed her pancreatic cancer. She died cancer-free with a healthy pancreas.
What will it cost me for the permanent fix?
That'll be around $125,000, because it's $50,000 for phase 1. The stem cell transplant is going to run you around $25,000. And then we do follow-up therapy after that to make sure the results hold, and that's another $50,000.
Stowe told them they would have to travel to Monterrey, Mexico for the treatment. He said his research associate there would take blood-forming stem cells harvested from umbilical cords or bone marrow and inject those cells into their spines. Those blood cells, he said, would transform into nerve or neural tissue that would reconnect with their muscles. Is there a stem cell fix for ALS?
No.
Professor Sean Morrison is director of the University of Michigan Center for Stem Cell Biology. His lab is one of the world's leading stem cell research centers. So when Stowe says he's going to take blood-forming stem cells and put them in the spinal cord to create neural cells, what do you make of that?
You know, we study blood-forming stem cells every day in this lab, including umbilical cord blood cells. And blood-forming stem cells don't make nervous system tissue.
And then what do the injected stem cells do next?
They start to regenerate the nerve tissue and repair the synapses.
Did you read
Stowe's
that?
incredible pitch often works because his victims have heard something about the promise of stem cells but don't really know much about them. At one time, some scientists thought that blood-forming stem cells could replace any kind of tissue, as Stowe claims, but science now knows that's wrong. Stem cell therapy is the standard of care in only leukemia and certain rare diseases of the blood, nothing else. There is very early research into whether stem cells might one day help ALS patients, but nothing like the claims Stowe is making. Dr. Morrison thinks breakthroughs are years or decades away. He says Stowe's claims are baseless.
Classically, people are reporting 3-4 weeks with the beginning to notice the effects.
Notice the effects in 3 or 4 weeks.
You might know the side effects in 3 or 4 weeks.
You described it as miraculous. That's what it would be.
If somebody squirted some stem cells into the spinal cord of an ALS patient and they stood up out of their wheelchair and had a permanent fix, that would be miraculous.
But that's what Stowe was promising in Michael Martin's living room as he weaved a pitch with lies of legitimacy.
Are you currently working with anybody in the FDA regarding?
Yeah, we, at all levels.
Even the University of Texas, he said, was planning to build a research center with a particular name.
Stowe Research Center for Regenerative Medicine, affiliation with the University of Texas. You can't find a surgeon in the world who doesn't support our approach.
After hearing the pitch, Steve Waters and Michael Martin, working with us, told Stowe they would go to Monterrey, Mexico for the treatment. We followed them there with hidden cameras, and we found Stowe's so-called research associate. That's Dr. Frank Morales in the dark jacket. In an email to Waters, Morales claimed, "We have treated well over 1,000 patients without any side effects other than positive results, which range from minimal to miraculous. But we have found that Morales is improvising stem cell procedures for profit with no scientific basis." Morales is an American citizen living in Texas with a Mexican medical license. We got the credentials he submitted to one Monterrey hospital and found that the medical degree came from a Caribbean school that was later shut down for selling diplomas. Morales dropped out of residency training in Texas. Morales and Stowe took our patients on a tour of the hospital where Morales was already doing stem cell procedures. He explained the techniques he uses.
Our team will go into the catheter and place it right up close to the brain or over the ventricle, right in the spine, and do other things, and they're pretty aggressive.
Mexican officials tell us stem cell therapy for ALS is not authorized. The hospital says it didn't know Morales was using stem cells and wouldn't have allowed it.
We can just go right in and okay, you got stem cells out here.
We found one of Morales' former patients, Muna Erickson, in Michigan. She has multiple sclerosis for which there is no cure. What exactly did Morales tell you about what you could expect?
He told me that I could expect her to be up out of the wheelchair and walking.
She'd get out of the wheelchair and walk away from it. Erickson and her husband Keith are not people with a lot of money, so in desperation, they sold their home in order to wire $15,000 to Morales. The Ericksons say they arrived in a rundown Mexican clinic for a scheduled spinal injection of stem cells, but Morales gave her a stem cell IV instead.
Well, he ended up coming in and hanging an IV off the tip of her thumb and was barely viable.
Muna, show me with your hand, if you can, precisely where that IV went in, right at the tip of your thumb.
Yes.
What did you think?
I thought about taking my wife and taking her home, but she was so set on getting these stem cells. I think she would have had a complete mental breakdown had I just boarded her back on a plane.
Muna, did you get somewhat better?
No. I don't want to.
Back in Monterrey, Mexico, Morales and Stowe came to a hotel room where they met patients Michael Martin and Steve Waters. They were expecting to see another down payment, $35,000 in cash. But that is not what came through the door. Mr. Stowe, Mr. Morales, I'm Scott Pelley. I'm with 60 Minutes. What happened next? In a moment.
That's got us the confrontations. Did you see the interesting things about this story so far?
Stephen Waters and Michael Martin, two ALS patients working with 60 Minutes, traveled to Monterrey, Mexico to meet Larry Stowe and Frank Morales. Stowe and Morales said that they could treat the symptoms of ALS with an unproven stem cell therapy. They met in a hotel room that we set up with hidden cameras. Stowe and Morales expected to see a cash down payment of $35,000, but instead, we walked in for an on-the-record interview. That's Larry Stowe sitting on the right. On the couch were Michael Martin and Steve Waters, and Morales was explaining how the stem cell treatment would go. Hey, Steve, Michael. Mr. Stowe, Mr. Morales, I'm Scott Pelley. I'm with 60 Minutes, and I'd like to ask you a few questions on the record about what you proposed. I understand that you have had patients that have stood up and walked away from wheelchairs who have ALS.
There have been patients that have improved to that extent.
You've reversed the condition.
Yes.
You know, Mr. Stowe, the trouble is that you're a con man. You're lying about this protocol. You've lied about your association with the University of Texas. You've lied about your work with the FDA. And now you're lying to these gentlemen about what they can expect.
No, why do you say that?
Nobody at the FDA knows anything about any of this. And the University of Texas is not going to be starting a regenerative medicine clinic with your name on it.
Really?
When we asked Stowe to back up his ALS claims, his story changed. Give me a Stowe Foundation patient who has ALS, who has stood up out of a wheelchair and walked away.
We don't have any ALS patients. We have MS patients.
We are talking about the treatment that you have taken their money for. Is that a treatment that would allow them to stand up out of a wheelchair and walk away?
With an ALS patient? No, with MS patients.
I don't believe that's what they understood.
Well,
I don't believe that's what you told them.
then they weren't listening.
Can you give, actually, we were listening
Okay.
very carefully.
Okay, do you have the tape recordings?
I do.
Pull them up.
I have.
Pull them up. I want to hear them.
I can do that.
Okay.
And we did. This was your meeting in Houston
Correct.
just a few weeks ago.
Well, if I opt for the permanent fix, will it keep me out of the wheelchair?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've had a number of ALS, patients, able to get out of their wheelchairs.
That's not true, is it?
The Stowe Foundation has not.
You told Steve that you were going to keep him out of the wheelchair. That's not true either, is it?
No, that's very true.
You're going to sit here after seeing that, and you're going to look this man in the face and tell him that he's going to stay out of a wheelchair? I mean, that's cruel.
Really? What is his prognosis if he doesn't do this?
His prognosis is the same either way.
No, it's not.
Mr. Stowe, you told these men in Houston that a cure was, in your memorable phrase, 100% possible.
Possible. Is that a guarantee?
The folks at home are wondering, what goes through your mind when one of these men pushes a suitcase full of cash across the table to you? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that they came to the right place if they want any hope at all.
So is there a permanent fix for the stem cells?
Many patients have pinned their hope on Dr. Frank Morales and his improvised stem cell procedures. Recently, he injected stem cells into the spine of a 7-year-old American boy in an attempt to treat the boy's autism, a procedure with no basis in medical science. We found Morales' training is dubious. This is the certificate he presented to a Monterey hospital showing he completed his training at Texas Tech University. But in the interview, he switched schools. Have you ever been licensed to practice medicine in the United States?
I have, and I worked under University of Texas, where I was at in El Paso, and came to Mexico after that.
The University of Texas El Paso has no medical school and no record of Morales as a student. But you have a license, or had a license to practice in the state of Texas.
It was an institutional license at the University of Texas, El Paso, UTEC. So you can go there and you'll find it. I mean, that's simple. That just if you did your homework, that's lousy, I mean, on your behalf, sorry to say.
Not only does he have no credentials from the University of Texas, we found that his Texas Tech credentials are fraudulent. A Texas Tech lawyer told us where it was obtained or manufactured, I couldn't say, but it was not issued by Texas Tech. Several minutes into the interview, we watched the Stowe-Morales relationship dissolve. Morales walked out, then came back to disavow Stowe.
Scott, yeah, I think they just did like in the sense of using, using him to try to bring him down. Is that, I think, is inappropriate. I mean, it's
Legal experts tell us that both Stowe and Morales have broken U.S. law, committed fraud by making a false claim. It doesn't matter that the procedure is done in another country. We wondered why the FDA is not acting against the many stem cell con artists whose websites are up for anyone to see. But the FDA Commissioner, Margaret Hamburg, declined to talk with us on camera about any aspect of stem cell quackery. Many experts believe that the FDA is outmatched.
Patients need to beware.
Larry Goldstein, a prominent stem cell biologist, and researcher Doug Sitt are with the International Society for Stem Cell Research, an organization of the world's leading stem cell scientists. Sitt is tracking bogus stem cell clinics all around the world. How have these operations grown, say, in the last 5 years or so?
I would say the growth has been explosive. I've been tracking it kind of closely for the past 3 years, and I've been able to come up with more than 200 clinics that are offering some version of stem cells for some type of medical condition for which there's no really good evidence that the stem cells would be either safe or effective.
Well, are all of these clinics frauds?
On one end of the spectrum, you have people who are doing essentially badly designed, uncontrolled human medical experiments for profit. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you just have thieves who are preying on the sick and their families.
Now, an ALS patient might say to you, how can I possibly be worse? This is the question you get. How can I possibly be worse?
I'm going to die.
I'm going to die.
Why not give it a try?
For 3 years, why not give it a try? Well, what if, as a result of this treatment, you ended up in excruciating pain? What if you managed to bankrupt your family through the use of one of these expensive, unauthorized treatments so that they can't care for you properly as you decline? There are things that are worse than your current situation, I think.
The experts in stem cell research believe these procedures are at best ineffective and potentially dangerous. A study by UCLA found patients at a Chinese clinic often developed spinal meningitis. But there's rarely any mention of risk on the websites that offer false hope for dozens of afflictions, ranging from Down syndrome to cancer.
One of the different things now is that the power of the internet now gives this tremendous global reach to people who in the past would be kind of the local quack.
So instead of the snake oil salesman standing in the back of the pickup truck, he can now reach every ALS patient on earth.
And say, come to me and I'll help you out in Mexico or in Russia or in Thailand.
What we see here essentially is Stowe on an industrial scale.
Stowe on steroids.
Yeah, you can see that.
And he might as well be sticking his hands into the pockets of those people and taking the money out without even talking to them. That's how bad I think it is.
You know, I wonder what you think when the top people in the field that you pretend to work in call you a snake oil salesman.
Comes with the territory.
It does come with the territory. We wondered what Stowe would say to the idea of giving Michael Martin his $47,000 back.
Has he asked for it?
I'm asking.
We give it back to him.
Now that's a deal I'd like to make.
Really? Okay. And when he continues to go downhill, 6 months from now, and hasn't made any progress, are you going to cover the cost of his care?
I'm not buying what you're selling.
Fine.
Of course, that refund never came. When we first walked into the interview, we thought Stowe might not stay, but he sat there for 2 hours, as though if he only talked long enough, he'd convince us. Thanks for sitting with us and talking to us.
Now, you're not running away, are you?
Well, I was planning on leaving, yes.
Okay.
I think I'm done.
All right.
Thank you.
You've just cost this man his life. I want you to know that.
You know, I don't think so. Larry Stowe never gave up, even after his lies were exposed. When we left the room, he turned to ALS patient Michael Martin and tried to close the sale.
We'll keep in touch. Because I can tell you, you know what's going to happen. If you don't take some type of aggressive action.
The scene at the hotel was the end of the Stowe-Morales collaboration. They didn't contact the patients again. Michael Martin and Steve Waters continued to fight the progression of ALS.
What would you like to see happen to Larry Stowe?
I don't care, Martin said. He has to live with himself. Since our story first aired last April, Lawrence Stowe has closed his business in San Diego. We've learned that the FDA has been investigating Stowe and Morales, but the agency won't comment further. Meanwhile, the ALS patients who helped us with our story are losing ground to their incurable disease. Steve Waters had to retire from college, and Michael Martin is now in hospice care and can no longer breathe on his own.
Okay, I think this is a very inspiring story to touch today's topic that is called information fraud. This type of information fraud is a little bit different from the fraud that we've been talking about as of last week. Last week, we're talking about you're using computer, you're looking for a job. You look for a job from a job online website where you pick a job. In that particular case, you fell into the scam of the hackers. And the purpose of the hackers just use every piece of information from you and your collaborations to get money from you. And you will not know it until you have become victimized. Today, when we study information fraud again in week number 8, I show you a different story. Now, because some of you were late, you missed the first half of my introductions. Week number 8, week number 9, and week number 10, it's learning contract number 3, and it is intended that you come to class on time, work together as a team at your table. And so, every time when you're here, I'm going to provide you some very stimulating story, and hopefully you'll make the best use of such story to start out the teamwork. And a topic which I would like to stimulate you with today, it's information fraud. So I decided to use this piece of 60 minutes documentary to show you information fraud from another perspective. Hopefully, you got some idea of what triggered the people to fall into the traps of the stories like this. This is the first question you need to discuss among yourself in your table. In the last week's episode, we see that what triggered the housewife to become a victim of the hackers' lie. It's that the housewife has a need for extra cash. She needs it to defray expenses for her own family. So she believes if I could make the best use of my time at home to earn some extra money as a part-time worker, fine, I'm just using my computer, I'm just doing some job which is appropriate. So the need for cash, the need for more income to defray the expenses of the family is the main trigger. Okay? So with that in mind, you might want to ask this question. What triggered many of the victims of the stories here? Very simple, you know that. Those victims have what we call a terminal ill disease. They do not have cancer, but have a kind of disease called Lou Gehrig's disease, which is even more devastating than cancer. Lou Gehrig's disease, as mentioned here, will continue to decrease the proper functions of a person by disconnecting the nervous system from its muscular movement. So eventually, the persons will die without the ability to move any part of his body except for the eyesight. They even can't speak, they can't move. The two patients you witnessed in this story are degenerating in these directions. So they're looking for hope. They want to live. But doctors from medical school, doctors from different clinics and hospitals told them, we do not know how to cure the disease. There's no way we can cure this kind of disease. The only way is you will continue to degenerate until you die. Okay? But people of this batch are looking for hope. And here comes the con man, as you can witness from this particular story. They make the best use of the eager to live from those patients. They trick them in such a way that they will offer hope of a particular treatment, and in return, they're going to recover. And so they have all the cash for this kind of content, believing that by doing this treatment, they will become recovered. But you know the results. And we are very much aware of this story. It's because of the efforts of those reporters here who very behind the scenes investigations, who took pictures, took videos, and they did interview, and they reviewed the whole scenario for us on the screen. So what can we learn from this? This is a very inspiring story of week number 8, okay, day number 15, all right? So I've just given you this number 1 story, okay? You might want to go home and watch it again. And then the second one is the Nigerian scam that we mentioned last week. And there's a dramatization of a businessman, or better say, a very highly educated financial analyst. But exactly because he's a financial analyst, he found into the victim of this Nigerian scam, and this cost him his life. And you can read the stories about this. And many other scams, like the you have been scammed, the Sri Lanka scam. And then we also have information on the WikiLeaks. These are very stimulating stories, okay, on information fraud. On day number 16, we will switch our topic to wireless network security. But since day number 16 is the day when you have to do the peer-based presentations, okay, so may I remind you that you need to get ready your 10 PowerPoint slides, okay? In order to be given a chance to do that, you sign already, you need to make sure you provide the PowerPoint slides, okay? It's from here, you sign up, all right? I got 9 pairs of students sign up, and so you sign up here, you need to upload your PowerPoint here before you will have the chance to do the presentations. That's it there. This is what's going to happen on day 16, Friday this week. So may I invite you to prepare your PowerPoint to get ready for your presentations. Okay, to close today's class, allow me to take attendance, all right?
thank you. Anson, not here. Tracy, thank you, you're back. Alfonso, not here today. Neon, thank you. Franco, not here today. Clears, thank you. Juno, not here today. Shadow, not here today. Okay. Jury, okay. Carol Wong, thank you. Henry Wong, thank you. Tina, Tina is not here today. Okay. Marco, thank you. Maggie, thank you. Vincent, thank you. Jeff, thank you. Henry New, not here today. Dong Yin, thank you. Carry on, not here today. Carry is not. Carol Howell, here. Nicholas, thank you. Gabi, thank you. And Jose, thank you. Tiger, yes, thank you. All right, this is the beginning of week number 8. That means we're stepping into the final learning contract, which lasts for 3 weeks. And the theme of this final learning contract is problem-based learning, meaning you need to work in team, particularly in class. Let me remind you one more time, at the end of this final learning contract, each team has to prepare 1 report and 1 presentation PowerPoint. And all the students from the same team need to submit the same team report and the same presentation PowerPoint. In other words, the whole team needs to work together throughout these 3 weeks to produce this report and the PowerPoint. And in order to get the report done, you need to select a topic for the whole team, all right? And everybody works on the whole team's team report by doing the following. Once you've got a topic, you need to have 3 questions for that topic. You need to have 3 references for that topic. And for each question of the 3 questions, you need to work out the observations, interpretations, and applications. And then the whole team needs to have a summaries of the learning. And that is what the report is all about. After that, you need to get ready the PowerPoint, which contains not more than 15 slides, and each team will be given at most 15 minutes to present. Okay? And that will conclude the last learning contract. Now remember, I'm looking forward to your presentation this Friday on the pair basis for your second learning contract. In a second learning contract, you need to prepare the PowerPoint, which contains not more than 10 slides. And you must upload the PowerPoint on where you sign up. That means the forum that I just showed you on week number 7, right? So on week number 7, right there you need to upload your PowerPoint, and then you will be given a chance as a whole pair to present. One more thing, I need your support in order to report to me who are the team members. Okay, we're going to have close to 6 teams, right? 6 teams, each team 4 members, since we're 25 students here. So give me your team formations detail from any representative on your team, all right? So I need that information because now is the beginning of the last learning contract, all right? So you need to give me this information. So where to give me this information? On week number 6, okay, there is something called Team Partner Registration Form, and you need to give me those informations as soon as possible. All right, so we have the first team, Carol's team, with 4 student informations. That's wonderful. And then we do have, okay, yes, that's good enough. After that, we have another teams on Clear's team, okay? So we need 4 informations, 4 students, not just 3. Oh yes, but 1 is missing, so that's okay. And then we have Maggie's team, and so Neon, you need to give the team formations to me, okay, the 4 persons in your team, and that's also with Marco, right? Okay, that's good. So make sure you give me the team formations details before the end of this week. All right, That's it for today. CISG 113, Sections 1, Information Security and Privacy, day number 15, week number 8.